Washington buys it all. Speaking of buying it all, I mean, Washington seems to be buying stakes in a lot of different stocks right now. And
Hmm.
I feel like that was one of the biggest news of the week once again. Let's move to the next slide. So we've had about 22% of the S&P 500 reporting earnings so far. 85% have beaten forecasts. Truth be told, though, shares have underperformed on some things. I think by and large, we've seen situations where stocks are beating estimates and they're kind of underperforming as far as their performance on the day after. And of course, if they miss, it's even worse actually, which not many have, but we've seen that. Tesla and Netflix, of course, headline earnings this week. We saw the shares fall in both of them. For Tesla, it was this Brazil tax issue. And sorry, for Netflix, it was the Brazil tax issue. And for Tesla, it was just literally they missed earnings. Delayed CPI report was released this morning, showed inflation is back at 3%. It's highest since January. Crude oil had its best week since June, and Mikey and I have been looking at crude a lot. I'm sure you have. I mean, this thing was, we thought it was going to, Tommy Tuesday basically was telling us about the lower range more recently, how it's been going in contango. We thought this thing was going to be basically about a 55 handle. And once again, this market has a surprise for you. It jumped even higher over the last 2 days. Trump administration, excuse me, has sanctions on Russian oil companies. They just feel like they're not moving enough to prevent this war in Ukraine. And after last week's close of 2078, VIX fell to 17 and is probably falling lower. That was yesterday's close.
Yeah.
VVIX is back below 100. So these are just a few of the things going on. We got more though. Let's move to the
Yeah.
next slide. Massive move in
Incredible.
gold. 7% high to low range on Tuesday. I completely pounded the table on this on Monday on overtime. I couldn't help it. I mean, I just thought it was nuts. But prior to that move, we had seen the previous 2 Fridays were the only real down moves in the previous like 3 weeks. And then we came in on Monday and it just, I mean, mooned even more, almost 4,400. And then the levees broke. 2 day down move. But it seems to be stabilizing. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where it moves from here after CPI.
Yeah, you also had that stat of the nine up weeks that you brought to the table, I think last week for this week in stocks, where it has never had a 10th up week in a row, and that was perfectly timed as well. So
Thank you, sir.
it
Thank
was
you.
it was awesome and made me a couple bucks. So I
I mean,
appreciate it.
it was ridiculous. I mean,
Crazy.
I know when something is out of control. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I've been out of control. So no, I'm just kidding. Let's move to the next slide. SPX 1 month skew has steepened to 1 year highs from our friends at the SIBO. This is, I mean, essentially, we're seeing a little bit more bid to the downside to some degree. That was actually one of the things too in oil and crude. Sorry, in gold, by the way, different from this. But I think that was one of the other things to me that stood out. Speaking
Hmm.
of skew got flat in gold, and we never see that, right? It's usually to the upside. So to me, that felt like okay, something's about to happen soon. But different from that, this is SPX skew, of course, and we're seeing skew similar to what we saw during last year's late run to the upside. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's and skew is a reflection of both sides, the up and down. The skew index is right at like 154 right now, which is kind of middle of the range. It's not super high in terms of its range, but you've certainly seen it with the pop and volatility that we got on the sell off. That the tails were juiced up. So we'll see if some of that comes out today.
Let's move to the next slide. So going forward, we get a little busy here. Of
Mhm.
course, we had CPI today. These the things in the black, of course, are macro. Who knows if we actually get them? But next week we got FOMC, the of course rate decision on Wednesday. I don't even know if it's a decision at this point. I mean, it seems pretty well forecasted. We're getting a 25 basis point cut.
Mhm.
Earnings, we got BA, UNH, we got Meta and Microsoft midweek, and then towards the end of the week, we got Amazon and Apple and ExxonMobil. We definitely are going to have an end of the month. We usually see some wild flows there. I don't know if we're going to get PCE though, but market seems to think it's going to be a big deal just based on the way that this chart looks. It seems CPI and PCE are equivalent. The week after, we get more earnings from Palantir, Uber, Humana, Robinhood, AMD, MP, which I don't know if that's going to move, but again, that's been at the epicenter of a lot of these things that the government has been buying. Talked about buying a couple of rare earth metal companies, that one in LAC and even maybe USAR. We got ConocoPhillips, and then I don't know if we're going to get ADP or the non-farm payroll. They just came out today and said we're not going to get another CPI.
Hmm.
Who knows, man? And then the week after that, Disney earnings. Let's move to the next slide. So yeah, I mean, the title of this thing, Washington buys it all. We've already heard about a lot of the rare earth metals. The big rumor yesterday was there might be purchasing stakes in quantum computing companies, and this has been a thing. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been a thing.
No, we sat and talked about, Alcoa or FCX as other, metal plays, and those have moved too. It's nuts. It's nuts.
You know what else has moved is coal companies. Again, that was something that was mentioned a lot in the first administration. We're going to make, coal viable again. It was the big phrase. And if you see companies like CNR, I know that was one of the ones that had been moving more recently. I've seen a couple of other different coal names. But aside from that, I think it's just been interesting in this market where you see, I talk about this a lot. I mean, because I just notice it. And I find comfort when I see big groups of names moving. So it's been the rare earth metal names. It's been these nuclear names. It's
Yeah.
been these quantum computing names that have been moving in large groups. And honestly, it's provided a lot of trade fodder for us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, dude, what year is this? IBM, Honeywell, Intel, they've been the big movers on earnings to the upside more recently. Target's supposed to be laying off 8% of its workforce and eliminating 800 open roles. I feel like this is one of the most interesting stories of the week that really nobody's really talking about, considering the kind of week that we've had. NHL strikes its first ever deal with prediction markets, Kalshi and Polymarket. That's not nothing at all. And you talked about DraftKings being down. I mean, mostly it's down because of the news surrounding some of these prediction markets more recently. So
Yeah.
I think it's something. And then, of course, next week we got the FOMC decision. Research, October 21st, market measure why volatility doesn't follow price. Check it out.
That was a good one. I will mention the Polymarket news of the 15-minute binary Bitcoin up or down markets. I think that's gone too far. 15 minutes.
Wait,
I don't.
seriously?
Yeah, yeah. They're launching 15-minute up down prediction markets. So you just, will Bitcoin be up or down in the next 15 minutes? That you think that's where we're going, Jamal?
I
Of
hope
everything?
not. I think, you know what? I think the further you go, I think eventually you push back. And so I've talked about this with people a lot. Like there's a lot of people who love trading zero DTEs. I think at some point in time that's going to get pushed back to the point where people start trading more 2 and 3 month out.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing right now, but people are, it's just eventually, yeah. It's you know what it's like? It's like in sports right now, in NCAA, there's a dude from the G League that's going to be playing in NCAA. And
Uh,
that's too far. Because you
yeah.
know what? You weren't allowed to go to the NBA and then come back and play in college. Why are you allowed to go to the G League and come back and play in college? That's too far.
Yeah.
And it just happens sometimes.
But yeah, the NHL poly market deal is pretty genius because it gets them out of the jurisdictional issues that DraftKings, FanDuel, Flutter, like that. That's bravo to them if they're like getting into the poly market versus going your traditional book route is very interesting.
It's just another app I got to download on my phone and deposit some money into.
Hey, you'll get a bonus though.
I got sprinkle of cash in 100 different places. I start to lose track of it. So
That's exactly the way that it's supposed to work. And then at some point in time, you forget about all of them, and then you got to go to those websites to figure out where you have cash somewhere.
good stuff out of you. Thanks for joining us today.